Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. That if he isn't there, there will certainly be a lot of questions about him. All right. There is one other football topic that I do want to get to. And I do want to talk about a certain coach that's always in the headlines. Now, unfortunately, right now he's going through some health issues. Hope he's okay. That is Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes. Okay. And so listen, if you listen to this show, if you were part of this show at any point last year, you know that I have, for the most part, I think I've been a defender of Coach Prime. I think I've been fair to Coach Prime. I don't think he's perfect, but I think he gets criticized for stuff that he should not be criticized for. Like, I think we can have a balanced, honest conversation about Deion Sanders, right? Listen, things aren't perfect. They're not in any program. They weren't last year at Colorado. Clearly, I think there was maybe something about, I think Shedeur was a great college player, but there was something that clearly turned off NFL people that we did not hear about in Colorado last year. So it wasn't perfect. There were issues just like there were everywhere. But I also don't think we can deny just how good and how improved this program is under Deion Sanders. You go back to when he took over the program, and it's easy to forget, but here are the facts. They were 1-11. They were the worst team in FBS football. That is just worst power conference team, at least in FBS football. That is not my opinion. That's just kind of a fact. They were terrible, okay? He takes over, and within 2 years, again, let's put aside judgment, let's put aside whatever, and let's just talk facts about Deion Sanders. Within 2 years, they win 9 games. They were a win away from playing for a Big 12 title, which obviously would have put them into playoff consideration. If they had won it, they would have gone to the playoff. They had a Heisman Trophy winner, and they had 4 guys drafted. Now, I know it didn't end well. I know they got destroyed by BYU in the bowl game, but 9 wins, NFL players, an 8-win improvement from 2 years before. I think it's been a largely very successful 2-year run for Deion Sanders. So why do I bring it up? Why are we talking about it? The reason we're bringing it up is because, again, it's talking season. Big 12 Media Days is next week. And I noticed this. I thought it was really funny. Is that all the preview magazines are out now, right? Athlon's out, Lindy's out. I have all of them. I'm prepping for the season ahead, and I saw a very interesting quote about this season ahead, right? Because I would think he won 9 games last year. I know he loses a starting quarterback. I know he loses a Heisman Trophy winner that was a great receiver and great cornerback. But at the same time, like, Deion has earned, in my opinion, a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. Can put together a winning roster. By the way, Shedeur apparently wasn't as good as everybody thought he was last year because he ends up being a 5th-round pick. So you're talking about like one real difference maker in Travis Hunter if you are under the impression or believe that Shedeur Sanders is somehow overrated. And so I bring it up because Deion always has his critics, okay? But it's one thing for somebody in the media to say he stinks. It's one thing for another fan base to say that he stinks. Like, if you're a fan and you don't like him, whatever. I'm not going to judge. But how about other coaches? Okay, so I saw this. I thought this quote was very interesting. Again, magazine season is here. All the magazines are out. And I bring it up because they have all those anonymous coaches quotes, right? So what they'll do is pick every team, whether it's Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida, Arkansas, Ohio State, whatever. And they'll ask an opposing coach in the conference what they think about the team. Well, Colorado in Athlon, they asked an assistant coach, and the quotes were not pretty. Okay, so this quote is courtesy of Athlon. Again, the graphics aren't great because producer Matt is traveling for the July 4th holiday. Here's what they said in Athlon about Coach Prime. Quote, "It's still a circus. That's not an insult to Deion, but it also is. They've turned over a ton in the portal, and they're trying to make it out like it's some competition-based result, but they're going to struggle on the offensive line because of the transfers again. It will be interesting to see how Deion manages the culture here. This is a roster with big holes and a lot of questions. Caden Salter, the new starting quarterback, is a good fit for the stuff they ran last year, and they have a lot of good transfer wideouts. Travis Hunter was so good. He was overshadowed. A really good position group in the secondary. Right now, that is their strength. If they can rework the front, the defense might be better overall. His sons are gone. This is the year you really wonder what Deion's long-term plan is. So that was what an opposing assistant coach had to say about Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes. But the one thing that stood out to me is what they said at the top. It's still a circus. To which you might say, Torres, it is still a circus. To what I would say is, I think it's actually pretty insulting to Deion. It's insulting to Coach Prime. And I think if you're still on this thing that Deion doesn't know what he's doing, I think it's going to kind of make you look like an idiot. And I think based on just simple facts, I think the bottom line is Colorado is again being overlooked just like they were last year. And I'm not saying they're going to win 9 games. But if your perception of them is that it's a circus, I think there's some other people in that conference that need to look themselves in the mirror because I think it's the furthest thing from it. Again, let's put away my opinion on Colorado. Let's just look at facts, okay? Because again, I think the assumption is you lose Travis Hunter, you lose Shedeur Sanders, you're going to stink. Well, first off, I would say Colorado has one of the better quarterback situations in the Big 12. Maybe not better than Iowa State with Rocco Becht. Maybe not better than Arizona State with Sam Leavitt, Baron Morgan from Texas Tech. But at the same time, who is Colorado's starting quarterback? Well, we presume it to be, as that report, as that graphic told you, Caden Salter. Well, who is Caden Salter? Well, Deion Salter was one of the best quarterbacks in the portal who was quite literally pursued by most of college football that needed a quarterback. SEC schools reached out to Deion Salter. He is a guy that 2 years ago at Liberty finished the season, how about this? 2,800 yards passing, 32 total touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Sounds like a guy to me that can compete at the FBS level, at the Power 4 level. Again, I'm not saying he's better than Sam Leavitt. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback in the Big 12. But do I think the quarterback's situation is better than it is right now, respectfully, at BYU, which doesn't have a starting quarterback right now, with Jake Retzlaff out? I think it's better. Do I think it's better than Utah? Devin Dampier's coming in as a transfer. We don't know much about him. I'll say this. Even Kansas State. Like, everybody loves Avery Johnson. Can you hit an open receiver that's not 70 yards downfield? Like, until Avery Johnson can hit short and intermediate throws, I'm sorry, I'm not impressed by him. And so I think Colorado's quarterback situation is pretty good. Let's look at the rest of the roster. Probably the deepest wide receiver group in the Big 12. And by the way, that speaks to what that quote said, because for all the criticism, they did reference in the middle of that quote, they have a lot of good transfer wideouts. Now, if you actually pay attention, most of their best wideouts are not transfers. Draylon Miller last year had 32 catches as a true freshman and was an all Big 12 freshman team member. Amarion Miller has had some very good moments in 2 years. Then you get into the transfers. Hakeem Williams, to me, is one of the difference makers that everybody's excited about. Former 5-star, was at Florida State. Former 5-star that everybody was excited about. So you had him in the portal. I'm trying to think of who was the other kid. What was it? I want to make sure I have this right. Give me 1 second here. I want to make sure I have the name right and all of that, because they did get another addition late in the portal cycle that did commit to them late in I think it was in the spring or the summer. I don't have the kid's name in front of me, but the bottom line is one of the best receivers in the spring portal committed to Colorado. So they agree that the wide receiver room is pretty good. Quarterback is going to be better than people realize. Oh, by the way, probably the best offensive tackle in the Big 12. Jordan Seaton, former 5-star, remember, was all Big 12 freshman team last year. I believe all Big 12 third team. And remember this, even Athlon, who says that the roster, it's quote unquote a circus, has Jordan Seaton as all Big 12 first team at the offensive tackle position. Then you go to the defense. Well, I mean, Colorado stunk on defense last year. Actually, no, they didn't. They actually led the Big 12 in sacks, and they led the Big 12 in tackles for loss. They were filthy up front. Now, they don't bring back everybody. They did lose B.J. Green to the NFL. Nikhil, one of the big names transferred to one of the big names transferred to Alabama over the course of the last couple months. And listen, I understand that's the world that we live in. I get it, this, that, the other thing. And so I'm not saying that they return everybody. N'Keal Hill-Green, that was the player that transferred to Alabama. But you know who they do return? A lot of production in the front seven, okay? These are some of the players that are returning off a team that led the Big 12 in sacks and tackles for loss. Keaton Wade, 7.5 TFLs, 4 sacks in 6 games last year. 6 games, 7.5 TFLs, 4 sacks. So I'm not great at math, but if he stays healthy for 12 games, that comes out to about 15 TFLs and 4 sacks. Not bad. Sam Okunlola, also back, 7 TFLs, 3 sacks. Arden Walker back, 6.5 TFLs, 4.5 sacks. Amari McNeil, 6 TFLs, 3.5 sacks. So you're talking about one of the deeper defensive lines with the deeper returning talent than most teams in that league. And again, this is off of a team. It's not like they were terrible in the defensive front. Led the Big 12 in sacks, led the Big 12 in tackles for loss. Doesn't sound like a circus to me. And then obviously there's the secondary where they said that is a strength of the team. Cornerback DJ McKinney is a guy that even last year people were talking about as a potential first-round pick. He had 3 interceptions last year, and they got some other nice pieces there as well. So I'm just going to ask you a couple things. Team, top half of the league quarterback, best offensive tackle, deepest wide receiver group, deepest front seven, great secondary. Does that sound like a circus to you? Here's the other, by the way, if you're going to make that argument about Colorado, that's fine. But you know who that actually sounds like a lot to me? LSU. Returning starting quarterback who was okay, was not great, but entirely new O-line, went crazy in the portal with an entirely new O-line, entirely new receiving core, a bunch of new players on defense. Nobody's calling LSU a mess. Ole Miss only returns like 5 starters. Everybody else is out of the portal. Nobody's calling them a circus. And so it's clearly just a knock on Deion. By the way, it's also worth noting, for a place that's a circus, they return most of their coaching staff, and I think that's an underrated part of this. Pat Shurmur, back as the offensive coordinator. Robert Livingston, who I think is going to be back in the NFL next year. He came from the NFL. I think he's going to be an NFL defensive coordinator before long. He is back this year. So you return the staff, top-end quarterback, best wide receiver group in the league, best front seven in the league, elite secondary. Doesn't sound bad to me. Also, Alejandro Mata is back at kicker, one of the best kickers in the league. So it's like, what are we even talking about here? Like, if you don't like Coach Prime, just say it. And I think this is a team that is again lining up to be better than people expect. Okay. Really quickly with the schedule. And again, I apologize, producer Matt's not here. Normally we would have all these graphics ready to go. The schedule is, all things considered, actually pretty manageable, considering that they are playing basically all of the best teams in the Big 12. Okay. They open with Georgia Tech at home. Georgia Tech could be pretty good. But of their biggest games in the Big 12, Arizona State, in my opinion, will be the preseason favorite. That game's at home. Iowa State might be picked second in that league. That game is at Colorado. BYU, I think even without Jake Retzlaff, still really good. That game is at Colorado as well. That's actually already officially a night game, a 7:15 Pacific time start, so you know that place is going to be rocking. Of the toughest road games, Utah is going to be tough because I always trust Kyle Whittingham, but new quarterback, new offensive coordinator, so it's going to take some time. At Houston, we'll see if Willie Fritz gets it going. And then they do end the season at Kansas State. And I'll just be real. I just don't buy the Kansas State thing. Avery Johnson, again, can you complete a pass? Like, can you complete like a 10-yard out? So I just bring it up because the Colorado, listen, all I'll say is, like I said, I think people are really, really, really underestimating this Colorado team. I don't think people are giving them the respect that they deserve. And I think transparently, I think we're going to be in a position where Colorado again surprises people. I looked it up. Their over-under is 5.5. They're winning more than 5.5. I'm just telling you that right now. And I just think, once again, people don't like Deion. They want to be critical. Look at the facts. This team is better than you realize.